After the divorce, my daughter called me useless and cut me off. Years later, she came back, only to ask about my inheritance. I told her she's not invited and I walked away without looking back. Hello Reddit I+ here. I never thought I'd end up writing one of these long posts, but the weight of it has been eating at me for months. I need to let it out somewhere. I'm 56 now, divorced, and living a quiet life. But this story goes back almost a decade. I married my ex-wife, Julia, when I was 27. She was 24. On the outside, she looked like the perfect partner, ambitious, funny, charming when she wanted to be. But over the years, I learned she had a mean streak. She was controlling and manipulative in ways I couldn't fully put into words back then. We had one child together, our daughter, Leah. From the moment she was born, I adored her. I was the parent who stayed up with her during fevers, who taught her how to ride her bike, who held her hand on her first day of school when she cried and begged not to go inside. Julia, on the other hand, was more concerned about appearances. She liked posting pictures of family perfection, but behind closed doors, she had little patience. She'd nitpick everything, from how I packed Leah's lunch to how I folded laundry. I worked hard, sometimes too hard. I was in IT, long hours, deadlines, endless on-call nights. I wasn't perfect, but everything I did was to keep our household running, to give Leah opportunities I never had. By the time Leah was 16, Julia had grown distant. She was constantly on her phone, going out with friends, and picking fights over nothing. When I found out she was cheating, it wasn't even with one guy, it was with two. That was the end of it for me. The divorce that followed was brutal. Julia turned into someone I didn't recognize. She fought me on custody, on finances, even on who got to keep the damn toaster. But the worst part wasn't losing the house or half my savings. It was watching her slowly twist Leah against me. She'd say things like, "Your dad doesn't really care about us. He only cares about work. If he loved you, he wouldn't be trying to take money away from me. He abandoned us." None of it was true, but when you're a teenager and your mom cries in front of you every night, it's easy to believe. I'll never forget the night Leah told me she was done with me. We were standing in the kitchen of the apartment I'd rented after the divorce. I'd made pasta, her favorite. She sat across from me, arms crossed, glaring like I was a stranger. Then she said it, "You're useless. You never did anything for me or Mom. I don't ever want to see you again." Her words hit harder than the divorce papers ever did. I tried to defend myself. I reminded her of the times I'd been there, the sacrifices I'd made. But she didn't want to hear it. She packed her bag that night and left. From then on, she cut me off completely. Blocked my number, my emails, everything. I wasn't invited to her graduation. She posted photos online with Julia and Julia's new husband, calling him the dad I always deserved. It was like I'd died, and she'd already moved on. For the first couple of years, I still tried. Birthdays, Christmas, random messages just to say I was thinking of her. No response. Eventually, I stopped. It hurt too much to keep screaming into a void. I focused on surviving. My health took a hit. I had a mild stroke at 54 that forced me to retire early. I downsized, moved into a smaller house, started fishing and reading to keep myself sane. I told myself Leah was gone. Then last year, out of nowhere, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but I picked up, and when I heard her voice, I froze. It was Leah, after 8 years of silence. At first, she played it casual. She said she'd been thinking about me. She asked how I was doing. She even laughed a little, like nothing had happened. My heart was racing. I wanted to believe she was reaching out, because she missed me, because she regretted everything. For the first time in years, I felt a flicker of hope. Then she got to the real reason. She cleared her throat and said, "So, I heard you've had some health scares, and Mom mentioned you've got the house, some retirement savings. I was just wondering if you've thought about your will." My stomach dropped. 8 years of silence, and she came back because she wanted to know what she'd get when I died. I let the silence stretch until she nervously said, "Dad, you there?" Then I told her, "Leah, you made your choice years ago. You called me useless. You cut me off. You didn't want me in your life, and I respected that. But don't you dare come back now because you think there's money waiting for you." She tried to backpedal. She said, "I was young. Mom was in my ear. I didn't mean it." But even then, she didn't say she was sorry. She didn't say she missed me. She just kept circling back to the inheritance. I told her flat out, "You're not in my will. You won't inherit a dime. My money is going to people who actually stood by me. You made your choice. And now, I'm making mine." Her voice snapped like a whip. "You're proving Mom right. You really are selfish." And just like that, she hung up. I thought that was the end of it. But a week later, a mutual friend called me. He said Julia and Leah had been talking about my assets for months. Julia was the one who pushed Leah to call me. They thought my health scare made me desperate for reconciliation, that I'd jump at the chance to have my daughter back, and in the process, hand over my estate. That was the final nail in the coffin. The will. The very next day, I updated my will. Everything. My house, my savings, even my old fishing boat, is going to my godson, Aaron. Aaron's 22, the son of a close friend who passed away. That kid checks in on me weekly, helps me with groceries, even sat with me in the hospital after my stroke. He's been more of a son to me than Leah ever was. When I walked out of the lawyer's office, I felt lighter than I had in years. For the first time, I wasn't clinging to the fantasy of the daughter I used to have. Leah hasn't called back. I doubt she ever will. And you know what? That's okay. She came back into my life not with love, not with regret, not with a shred of apology, but with greed. That told me everything I needed to know. I didn't walk away empty-handed. I walked away with peace. A few weeks after that phone call with Leah, I thought things had finally gone quiet. I'd updated my will, set my boundaries, and told myself I'd never hear from her again. Then Julia called. I hadn't heard her voice in years, and honestly, I didn't want to, but curiosity got the better of me and I picked up. She started off sickly sweet. Hi. It's been a long time. How are you holding up? Leah told me she spoke to you. She's been really emotional since then. I knew immediately what this was. Julia never called without an agenda. She went on. You know, she regrets the things she said when she was younger. She was a kid. She didn't understand. Maybe you should consider giving her another chance. Family is all we have, right? But the way she said it didn't sound like a mother who wanted to mend fences. It sounded like a lawyer testing the waters. I asked her directly. Julia, did you put her up to that phone call? Silence. Then she chuckled, like I was the crazy one, and dodged the question. All I'm saying is, Leah is your only daughter. She deserves something from you. If you don't reconcile now, you might not get another chance. There it was. The manipulation, wrapped in family talk, but really about money. 2 days later, Leah herself showed up at my door. No call, no warning. Just her standing on my porch with a forced smile, holding a bag of takeout like she was doing me a favor. It was surreal seeing her after almost a decade. She looked older, sharper around the edges, but her eyes, Julia's eyes, were exactly the same. She stepped inside without asking, looked around my modest home and said, "Wow, smaller than I expected." I ignored the jab and sat down at the table. She unpacked the food and started making small talk. Work, friends, vacations, all surface-level stuff. But eventually, she circled back to the real reason. So, Dad, about what you said on the phone. I get it. I was harsh before. I regret it, okay? But I think we can fix this. We don't have to be strangers. I waited. I wanted her to say she was sorry. I wanted her to say she missed me. But instead, she added, if you just update your will, we can put this all behind us. I mean, who else are you going to leave it to? That was the moment I realized this wasn't reconciliation. This was a transaction. I looked her straight in the eye and said, Leah, you're not here because you want me in your life. You're here because you want what I have. That's not love. That's not family. Her face hardened. She dropped the fake sweetness and snapped, you owe me. After everything I went through because of you and Mom, the least you can do is leave me something. Do you want me to struggle while strangers enjoy your money? I laughed, not because it was funny, but because the absurdity of it all finally hit me. You struggled? Leah, I was the one who was left alone, cut off, called useless. I begged for years just to hear from you. You didn't care, and now you show up because of money? Number. Not again. Her eyes narrowed. Mom was right about you. You really don't care about anyone but yourself, and that was the last straw. I stood up, walked to the door, and opened it. Get out. She stared at me, shocked. You're serious? Dead serious. You made your choice years ago, Leah. You don't get to come back now and pretend this is about family. You're not entitled to a cent. Not now, not ever. She stormed out, muttering something about lawyers and making sure I pay for this. I closed the door, locked it, and leaned against it. For the first time in years, I didn't feel weak. I didn't feel like the abandoned father begging for scraps of affection. I felt free. A week later, I got a text from an unknown number. It was Leah again. One line, don't bother calling when you're dying. You'll be alone. I didn't reply. Because here's the truth. I've already mourned the loss of my daughter. The girl I raised, the one who used to hold my hand, laugh at my bad jokes, and ask me to stay up late watching movies. That girl is gone. What's left is someone who sees me as a bank account, not a father. And I'd rather die alone with dignity than live surrounded by manipulation and greed. So I walked away, and this time, I'm not looking back. After I kicked Leah out of my house that night, I thought that was it. I thought she'd leave me alone, lick her wounds, and maybe, just maybe, reflect on what she'd become. But a week later, I got a letter in the mail, not handwritten, not even typed by her. A formal envelope from a law office. My stomach sank before I even opened it. Inside was a letter from her lawyer. Leah, with Julia's help, was trying to claim that she was entitled to a portion of my estate because she was my only biological heir. They framed it as if I was being neglectful and unfair for cutting her out. I nearly laughed out loud. She had cut me off for almost a decade, called me useless, erased me from her life, but now I was supposed to owe her something? I called the lawyer directly. They dodged most of my questions, but eventually admitted Julia had been in their office with Leah, helping her explore her rights. I knew it. This wasn't just Leah. This was Julia pulling strings again. So, I did something I hadn't done in years. I called Julia myself. She picked up on the second ring, smug as ever. "I was wondering how long it would take before you called me," she said. I cut her off. "Stop dragging Leah into this. Stop pushing her to chase something that isn't hers." Her tone shifted instantly to mocking. "You're pathetic. You think your little retirement savings and that sad little house matter? Leah deserves it. You failed her as a father. The least you can do is leave her something when you die." That word again, deserves. I snapped. "She doesn't deserve a cent. She cut me off. She called me useless. She made her choice. You poisoned her against me, Julia, and now you think you can swoop in and collect. It's not happening." Julia just laughed. "We'll see," and she hung up. For months after that, it was a barrage. Letters, texts from random numbers, emails demanding I reconsider. Leah even showed up at my local grocery store, by coincidence, loudly calling me a deadbeat in front of strangers. The lowest point was when she came to my house again, this time with Julia in tow. I opened the door and there they were, standing side by side like some twisted united front. Julia had that smug smirk she always wore when she thought she was in control, and Leah crossed her arms, glaring at me. Julia started, "We don't want this to get ugly, but you're being unreasonable. Just update your will, and this can all be over." Leah chimed in, "Do you really want to die alone? Because that's where you're headed." I couldn't believe it. My ex-wife and my daughter, my own flesh and blood, were standing there, threatening me, trying to guilt-trip me into handing over money while I was still alive. I looked at Leah and asked, "Tell me one reason you're here that doesn't involve money." She froze, opened her mouth, closed it again. Then she scoffed, "Fine. Be selfish, but don't expect me at your funeral." I shut the door in their faces. I wasn't going to let them catch me off guard. I went back to my lawyer, updated every document, made sure my estate was airtight. Leah was written out in black and white. Julia had no legal standing. I even went a step further. I wrote a letter to be read after I'm gone, explaining exactly why Leah wasn't inheriting anything, not to be cruel, but so she couldn't twist the story later. And I left everything to Aaron, my godson, the one person who's been there for me without asking for anything in return. Months passed. I thought maybe they'd given up. Then came one final attempt. Leah showed up alone this time. She looked different, less angry, more desperate. She sat at my table, staring at her hands. For a moment, I thought maybe this was it. Maybe she was finally here to apologize, to say she missed me, to own up to the years we lost. Instead, she whispered, "Mom says if you don't update your will, we'll be forced to contest it. It'll be public, messy. Do you really want your name dragged through the mud?" I stared at her. Not a word about regret, not a word about love, just another threat. I said quietly, "Leah, the girl I raised is gone. You're not my daughter anymore. You're just Julia's puppet, and I won't let either of you use me." She looked up, eyes flashing. "You'll regret this." I stood, pointed to the door and said, "The only regret I have is wasting years waiting for you to come back. Get out." She left. That was the last time I saw her. That was 9 months ago. Since then, silence. No calls, no letters, no random coincidences at the grocery store. Sometimes I think about the little girl who used to sit on my shoulders at the county fair, laughing so hard she got hiccups. The girl who cried when she scraped her knee and begged me not to let go of her bike seat. That girl is gone. What's left is someone who sees me as a bank account. And here's the thing. I've already buried the father-daughter relationship I once had. I've already grieved it. I may die with less family than I expected, but I'll die with my dignity. And that's worth more than any inheritance. Because walking away from them wasn't losing family. It was losing the chains they tried to wrap around me. And for the first time in a long time, I'm free.